we go look at one of these current events, man, and I'm gonna tug on your heartstrings a little bit, but I think it's something that we need to talk about because I think most of the times we look at some of these stories and we've seen it from nursing homes to daycares to places that tend to be safe seem to be becoming more and more unsafe. And it begs the question, like, what are you supposed to do as working class when you don't have the resources to be able to be the working class? So let's pull up this clip, let's look at it, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it.
After a little boy dies and 3 other children are found unconscious at a daycare in the Bronx. 2 people are in custody tonight. Charges are pending.
Sources say the woman who was running Divino Nino Daycare and a man have been in police custody here at the 52nd Precinct, and they are being questioned by detectives. Of course, this in tandem with the Bronx District Attorney's Office. They will determine the culpability of both of these individuals and really what has been a horrific ordeal. But it doesn't seem to be a matter of if, but when. I'm told criminal charges will come down. Tonight, a heartbroken father is trying to make sense of the loss of his 1-year-old son.
I love him, I miss him, I want him back. But there's nothing that will give me back my son.
Nicholas Dominici died after authorities say he and 3 other small children were exposed to opioids at a Bronx daycare Friday afternoon. A source close to the investigation says fentanyl was found along with drug-making equipment, specifically a kilo press. Tonight, investigators are trying to determine how the children, one of them as young as 8 months old, came in contact with a potent substance inside a home-based daycare in this Morris Avenue building. What this father thought was a safe space for his son.
It's the first time we lose a family member. We don't have a plan. We don't know where to go or what to do. At the end of the day, we are alone in this process.
The children didn't wake up from nap time. First responders rushed to the building for cardiac arrests. Sources say Narcan was used to revive at least one of them. Doctors now testing blood and urine samples from the 3 surviving kids to figure out exactly what kind of narcotics they were exposed to. Meanwhile, parents want answers from the daycare.
I'm expecting you to watch my kid at all times because at that moment, these are your kids. They my kids, but they your kids because they under your watch.
You know, yes. I was fortunate enough when my kids were younger. I had my family around, right? So daycare was very, very few and far between. Like we had it if we needed it, but for the most part, my family was around. We didn't have to pay too much out of pocket for daycare. But I'm fortunate, right? I'm one of those small percentage people. There's people out there who actually really depend on daycare. And from, like I said earlier, we look at nursing homes, hospitals, doctor's offices. I've been doing this for just under a year, right? And the more and more I get immersed into some of these current events and news articles and the things I see, it's almost like the places that we used to trust the most, the places we go to when we're at our lowest point, the places we depend on so we can go and make a living for ourselves, seem to be getting less and less responsible. They're no longer safe to put your family members there. And it's unfortunate, right? Think about the parents, this father, right? He was on the screen. And he said he's in this by himself. He's never lost a family member. He doesn't know what he's going to do. Yeah. Man, that's a horrible feeling. I don't even know what that feels like. Only thing I can say is my heart goes out to him. But they dropped their kid off that morning, expecting to pick him up around 5, 6 o'clock. And they didn't. They did it. Man, that is so heartbreaking on so many levels. I couldn't even fathom the emotions you go through. So when I say safe spaces aren't safe anymore, what is it how do we combat this? How do we make sure and put ourselves in the best position to make sure that our family members are going to be safe? In situations like this, man, is there a way that we can prepare for this? What's your thought?
So, okay. I'm gonna address this 2-part because what you just said is probably gonna be the latter where I get to. I just want to comment in regards to how egregious this type of situation is when you're talking about kids getting in contact with Fenty, that's supposedly the perfect front, right? Because you have a daycare, nobody would possibly have Fenty inside of a daycare. That's what everybody is thinking. Hence why the statement safe spaces are no longer safe. They assumed that these places were safe, right? But time and time again, people have shown that daycare centers are not the safest places. People show up and their kids have bruises, or they look different than when they dropped them off, and they're in a completely different mood. It's like things happen at these daycares where they never were safe spaces. They were anticipated to be safe spaces. The fact that these places have Fenty is something that nobody could ever have thought about, right? You can't just go ahead and think like, oh man, there's a possibility my kid would go ahead and run into fentanyl because there's opioids in the back, right? Nobody thinks that. Now, how do we combat this? Well, from what I understand, there are daycare centers that have the ability, you can go ahead and look in on your child via camera, right? You can log in and view what is going on in the daycare center, which gives complete accountability as to what's going on. No longer can you go ahead and hide the fact that you accidentally dropped a newborn or something like that while you were taking care of it, So you just have everything posted up. You're seeing everything that's happening, and you can log in at any moment in time to go ahead and check on your child. So that's one start. You can't guarantee things, but that's a start. Thorough background checks on people. It's not a bad idea to do a small psych eval. I'm not talking about, oh my God, you got to do deep, thorough. That I know that costs money, but come up with a set of questions that are geared to give you great indicators as to if people are fit to be around children, right? Their experience around children. Don't just go ahead and fill a space just to fill a space. Oh, I've taken care of my cousin and my niece and nephew, and I've always been the person they leave the kids with. No, that's not enough, right? You need to know how to react if the kid is, whatever the case may be. I'm not in charge of the specifications, but I know that that's where it starts, right? These are the things that you would go ahead and employ to combat these types of situations. Also, as a parent, I know this one's the hardest one, right? I know daycare is expensive. Try. That's all I'm going to say is try, because I can't tell anybody what to spend their money on or not. But try not to, if you're going to skimp on anything, try not for it to be your daycare.
I remember when, again, I go back to my daycare days, and this was early when me and my wife, before we got established to where we are today, we moved from one daycare to the other. I never forget this. We were going to a daycare in the Parkland area, right?
Okay.
And we were paying for it. And there was a night and day difference because it was costly. But you know what? I could afford it. I fit it into the budget. As time moved forward, things started getting a little bit more expensive. We ended up moving from that place over in Parkland. We moved over to Lauderdale Lakes, right? So we moved to Lauderdale Lakes, and we found this other daycare. Bro, the price was ridiculous. I think you could pay by the day. And it was like some stupid price, like $20 a day. And the way that we worked it out was, well, if I work these amount of days and you work these days, we're only paying for like 2 days a week. So you're talking about daycare for $40 a week, right? Yo, but the differences was crazy because when I used to go pick up, I think my son was the only one who went to that. When I used to go pick them up, they were just in recess all day. Like it was just kids in a room.
Box your kids.
Yeah,
box your kids.
It was just kids in the room. And my only comparison was when we were in the Parkland area, right? So out in the Parkland area, they were learning stuff. They came home with things they did for the day. maybe drawings or, you know, work that they did, what they learned, what they practiced, how to write ABCs 1, 2, 3. Oh, bro, they was just coming home with stuff.
Right.
And then the other daycare, it was just kids in the room. It was like, hey, we
Kids
kept them
in the
alive.
box.
We kept them alive for 8 hours. It's like, holy crap. And
Right. We kept, I mean, that's the standard, right? We kept them alive. Hey, we feed them. We make sure they watch a little TV.
I told the missus, I say, I hate this school. I said, I hate this daycare. And that was the end of that. I think we did it for about 6 months because it was needed, right? And then with circumstances, as soon as they changed just a little bit, I was like, we're done with this. We're not doing this, because it's not that I felt unsafe. I just wasn't happy with the quality of daycare. It was the quality of daycare. So I get it, man. But, you know, just in regards to the article, I feel sorry for this father, man. Like,
it's terrible.
You have no idea. Like, as a parent, I feel so hurt because, yo, when you drop your kids off, I can even reference the people from the Stoneman Douglas incident and the many other incidents with these mass shootings, right? Yo, they go to school and they don't come home.
Right.
Like that, life changes. Bro, it's just...